What's up, guys? Ronin Man here. Still with my friend in the cabin, and just thinking about something here about the way that men try to protect themselves and why it doesn't work. Right. So we were just talking about this. Like my friend was saying, hey, maybe he's too cynical now. Maybe he doesn't trust women enough. And my thought was, that's natural. Like it's just temporary. Temporarily, you feel that you can't trust any woman and that all women are dishonest, or there's no security, there's no trust, there's no way to trust. And I think probably most MGTOW guys are like this when they come to MGTOW. The problem with that is real. Okay, the problem is this. Well, one, I say there's no problem in a way because it's totally natural reaction. In other words, when a man goes to Vietnam and fights in a war and he is ambushed at night, he will have a PTSD reaction to that. And he will always think, whenever he sees a shadow in his house, his brain will go back to that period and he will reenact that in his mind. And he will have the same emotions as if he's being ambushed at night, but actually it's just his friend going to the bathroom, right? So it's totally natural for him to do that. But after the trauma, the memory, the whatever you call it, the searing of his mind, after he gets over that, he starts to get to a more balanced view of things. So he realizes that was a one-time thing. Not every person is a Viet Cong trying to kill him and his friends, So his mind then can take eventually, at first, he maybe starts out as a very innocent, very naive person who doesn't see any danger in anything. So he's in his small town in Illinois. He feels like, everything is safe. Everybody loves me. My parents love me. He's protected by his grandparents and everything seems completely safe. And the next thing you know, he's in Vietnam and he feels like, in one part of him is like everyone's trying to kill me. Like there's no safety anywhere. This is and it's no joke. This is serious stuff, right? He's got to protect his life, right? So it's real. They're both real. But the problem is that in human relations, in how life really is that it is it's the biggest problem that humans have in relations is being too close or too far away. So the mature man is able to do both. He's able to be close, but not too close. So in the sense that he starts to draw boundaries. So he likes to be, he understands the value of human touch, human relations, friends, being open to other human beings. Bearing his soul and taking a risk because he wants to learn. That's the sound of rain, by the way. It's starting to rain here. It's very nice up here. The air is so clean. It's amazing. But so and then going too far away. So what happens with a lot of guys is a lot of men, they never reach this level of maturity where they're able to speak up for themselves. This is one of the problems with why guys get so hurt, is because often they're not able to tell their friends or whatever. Let's just use friends as an example, because it could be bosses or friends too, that they don't like this. That this is, maybe they like this and this and this, but that's too close. They don't like that one thing. That they're not able to verbalize their opinions because maybe they're afraid that the guy's going to look down on them or call them something or whatever. And so he sucks it up on this. So it doesn't matter, right? But then the guy keeps doing it and over, and then he gets very angry, and then he has to break up the friendship and doesn't want to, you know what I mean? So it's because he's not able to say, wait a second, let me lay this out. This is totally comfortable. That is totally comfortable. But this thing here, for whatever reason, it makes me a little bit uncomfortable. And so what guys tend to do when they start to do boundaries for the first time is basically say, like, overreact. So they kind of say, like, once somebody breaks their boundary that they never fucking told anybody about, the guy has no way of knowing what this boundary is, right? No one's doing anything to you, right? It's just like your responsibility to tell people who you are and what you like and what makes you comfortable, what makes you uncomfortable, right? So that's your responsibility. If you don't do that, you can't expect people to know. You can't expect them to know, right? And I'll give you an example of women's terrible boundaries that they blame on guys. Is women will say, I never talk to my husband, or I don't like talking to my boyfriend because every time I talk to a man, he tries to fix things, right? He tries to fix things. And then that's terrible. And the girls will say, oh, yeah, that's terrible. You just need someone to talk to, blah, blah, blah. That's not true. We need both, close and far away. It's up to the girl, it's up to her to tell the man, like, here's what she could say. Okay, right here will solve like half the problems girls are having with guys. All the girl has to say to the guy is, look, in this mode I'm in right now, I'm not looking for solutions yet. In fact, I don't even want criticism yet. At this point, I'm so raw on this issue that I can't listen to anything. And I seriously don't want any looks or anything. I don't want any advice yet. But I really, really need to talk about this. And I need to find my own path on this one. Maybe later I'm going to want some advice. But right now, I just need someone to really, really listen to me. And let me get this out. Even though I said the same thing 3 days in a row, and I didn't take the advice that other people gave me, my brain hasn't wrapped around it yet. So I'm not ready. So would you listen? Every man is going to say, yes, I get where you're coming from. Like, please, just talk. And then the girl talks and talks and talks, and the guy doesn't give any advice. And then she, even 5 minutes later, once that has happened, that is monumental. Because now she's let out her feelings, but she also drew a boundary. But she let him know the boundary. So the guy knows, okay, right now she's not looking for a solution, right? She's just trying to talk about it, right? And if a woman does that, men, we're the same. Like, we have things we're not ready to deal with, but we want to talk about too, right? We absolutely have stuff like this. We're just our brain is kind of wrapping around something, right? We're not quite sure, We're not sure if we're going to buy the house yet. We need to talk about it. We need to think about it. We need to kind of roll over the different options. We need to like, whatever. This men and women are not that different on this. So once she lays the boundary down, men are fine. Men are not stupid. We want to make fucking people happy, right? We want to have a good life, right? We're just going to listen and say, okay. And then the guy might say, like, the next day, like, if she keeps talking about it, he might say, well, how do you feel about it now? And then the girl says, well, she says, actually yesterday, the fact that you listened to me and I was able to voice it, it felt fantastic. So I feel better. And the guy says that's great, because he knows she's getting closer to her solution. She will find a solution in her mind, and she might actually do exactly what he says. But it takes her brain time. This is how a teacher thinks. A teacher doesn't scream at the students and tie them up and duct tape them and force them to do something. You allow the student, you draw it out of the student. That's what you're doing. A good teacher is not teaching the student. He's drawing it out of the student, right? Men are smart. We understand this, but you have to verbalize this to us. Otherwise, we have no way of knowing where you're coming from. Because a man is going to think, probably first, he's going to think they're looking for a solution. Like my car gets bad gas mileage, right? The guy thinks, well, have you checked this? Have you checked that? He's going to think of solutions. But also a man understands, because we study math, we study things. We understand that you're not always ready. Sometimes it takes time to learn something. It takes patience. And those teachers that had the patience with us and let us find it in ourselves. That's why I love Richard Feynman so much. As a teacher, he's so fantastic, because he shows you in a playful way an idea, and he allows you, gives you time where you wrap your head around it, and then you start to discover it. But the idea comes from you. It's not like a teacher who says, see, I taught that to you. See, I taught you. See, you didn't know this before you met me, but then I taught you. See, I'm the teacher. See, you're the student. That makes you feel pissed off. You don't like that. You want the teacher that's going to draw it out of you. You was going to. So, but that's about boundary. It's about boundaries. Women have often terrible boundaries, but they blame it on the man's communication skills. So that's totally retarded, right? That's like so lame, right? So guys too it's the closeness and the far awayness. It's the maturity that we're looking for ultimately on every single kind of aspect of our lives. We're trying to get mature in every aspect and on every level, right? And it's about having that ability to know yourself well enough that you can tell your friends, let's just say friends, is say, I want to talk about this, but I'm not ready to listen. I actually did this exact thing, and it was a miracle for me. It was a total miracle. When I go to groups, like say I went to a 12-step group, and I used to say I had a problem, and then guys would say to me, they would kind of give solutions like afterwards, after I talked. But yeah, sometimes I really did not want them yet. Like essentially, the solution is kind of inside myself in a way. It just takes time for me to get over my Wolverine reaction to something, where I can calm down, because I might be very angry about something, or I might be very hurt, or I might have lost a lot of money in investment. I might be very, very sensitive about something, right? Until I can get past the emotion to where I can actually solve. Because sometimes I actually know the answer to my own question. Other times I need other people to teach me. I need internet. I need different ways to learn, right? So what I really discovered something amazing. I went to a meeting once and I said, look, I'm going to tell this story, but I do not want any advice. Do not give me any advice. I don't want to hear anything. I'm not ready to. And I started I got so extreme when I explained it. I laughed at myself and everybody started laughing. And then I said it. And then afterwards somebody said, I'm not going to give you advice because I know you're not ready for it. And you know what I said right after the meeting? This is something I've been struggling with for weeks. I said, give it to me. Like, I want to hear it. I'm ready. This is like 5 minutes after I shared my story that I was not ready. But it was the fact that everybody they were kind. I sensed a sense of safeness with everybody in the room. And they respected what I said. Like, I held them at bay. Like when you have a fire and you're trying to keep the wolves away from your campfire, or the pigs. I was in a place where I was camping. There's these wild pigs coming up to my tent, and they're quite scary, wild boars, right? So I was trying to keep them away, right? I'm trying to keep the boar so I can solve this thing for myself, or so I can get past whatever I'm kind of my internal block or whatever. And like, I swear it was like magic, because like 5 minutes later I was like, he gave me the harshest advice, but it didn't seem harsh anymore to me, because I was ready for it. I was like, yeah, I'm going to do that. You're right. That's an awesome idea. And I totally did it. And I was able to solve my own problem. But I didn't realize at the time what I was doing is I was learning boundaries. That's what I was learning. So the way that a lot of times why you get hurt in life, why things are difficult for you, is because you don't know yourself well enough, and you're not able to set a boundary and tell people where you're at. Maybe you don't have the confidence to do it, right? So being mature and having friendships and let's just say anything else, whatever it is, a good work relationship, because there's different boundaries in work. There's very different boundaries in work. And if you work for a large corporation, they have rules for boundaries. If you're uncomfortable with something, you're supposed to go to HR and tell them. You're not supposed to deal with it on your own. And they have a system that works. Okay? It's not bad or good. There's just different. To set boundaries is not that easy. That's why I'll do another boundaries video with specifics about different scenarios, because if you work for a small company, which I've always worked, I've always owned small companies, you have to deal with it yourself, because there is no HR, there's no system, so you have to set the boundaries yourself, but in a different way than you'd set it with a girlfriend or with a friend or with your parents, right? So setting boundaries, it varies greatly. Learning boundaries is really difficult, actually. It's like almost a lifelong thing, but it's a very, very worthwhile thing. Very, 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 very important and powerful. And so, and a lot of people, once you start to learn this stuff, the closeness and the far awayness. Once you start to learn this, your life will totally transform, because you'll find that you're doing so many things you hate and you're blaming it on other people, but it's just your own inability to tell people how you feel about something, essentially who you are, you know. And a really good example, there's this guy, right, and he is a minister, and he would go home to his Easter, have Easter dinner with his parents. He was 60 years old, and he was a church minister, and so his family had a tradition of him doing the prayer at the Easter dinner. But actually, he totally hated it. He hated doing the prayer for some reason with his family. Maybe because it's kind of like singing when you're a professional singer or something, you know? Like, that was his work. Even though he believed in everything, and it wasn't a problem with that. It's just that it was like, it reminded him of work, you know, like he's at work now. And here he is doing work for his family. He didn't feel like he had any peace, right? And so for whatever reason, he did not like doing the prayer. He really did not like doing the prayer at his Easter dinner, but nobody knew in his family. So they would always be, his family, actually, this was a special family tradition, because they had the son that was a minister, and he could do the prayer. And so everybody really liked it, including the little kids. But he freaking hated it. And so finally, he had to make a boundary, and he called his mom, and he made a very mature boundary using what's called Bowen Family Systems approach. He said to his mom, he said, "Look, I want to warn you that next year I don't want to do the prayer at the Easter dinner." And his mom said, "What are you talking about?" And he said, "You know, I actually have never liked doing it, actually. I know it sounds weird because I'm a minister and all that, but I just don't like doing it on vacation. I don't like doing it. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's too personal. I don't know, but I don't want to do it. And I just wanted you to know now, because I've always done it before, so I don't want to like throw this down on you guys at the last minute. Like, it's not your fault that I haven't drawn a boundary on this. It's my fault. So, you know, I don't want to blame this on you guys. This is my own lack of ability to verbalize my own wants and needs as a person and feelings, right? But for whatever reason, this has always driven me crazy, and I'm never going to do it again, and I'm not going to do it next year. But I want you to know, you know, I love everybody. There's no problems there. There's nothing big going on here. It's just that this is a thing I will never do again, and I don't want to do it. And I wanted you to know that. And I'm sorry, you know, if it bothers you, you know, like, we can find another solution. Someone else can do it. And his mom tried to push him, actually, to do the prayer, because she thought he wasn't serious about it, because he was kind of learning boundaries at 62 years old. And then when it came up to the prayer, his mom actually pressured him to do the prayer, even despite the fact that he put down the boundary. And he just said again, I told you, you know, back in January, that I'm not going to do it. You know, I care about everybody, but in everything, but I'm not going to. I choose not to do it. And the family, it was an uncomfortable moment, but the family adjusted, and now the family does their Easter dinners without his prayer, and somebody else does the prayer, and they're totally fine with it. And the other guy who does the prayer actually likes doing the prayer, and he had been kind of waiting to do the prayer. The grandfather, he was happy to do the prayer, so it all worked out totally fine. But when you're in the process of being too close, too far away, and letting people know who you are, essentially doing boundaries, it can be quite difficult for men. It really is. We're not good at it. We're not taught these kind of things. But this is how you learn. This takes you to the next level, your life to the next level, because it allows you to verbalize things you've never verbalized, and to see yourself as actually having, as a person, you have needs, right? There's things that bother you, right? And it's very uncomfortable at first, right? It's kind of like when I first stopped drinking. I went around my friends, and they all saw me as a drinker. But it was kind of difficult for me not to drink with them, you know, because some people I just didn't want to be around because they forced me to drink, kind of, or I felt a lot of pressure. But a lot of my good friends I had that were drinkers, they're still friends today, 32 years later, right? But at the time, I knew they were good friends, but I kind of had to set a boundary. It was very uncomfortable in the beginning. But eventually, my good friends, they accepted it. They were fine with it. And now they know me they don't even remember me drinking. It's been so long. You know what I mean? So the thing is it does work out for the best. Because I could have been black and white about it. I could have just said, because some people told me, you got to leave all your friends. Black and white, baby. All women are dishonest. All men are honest. All you can't trust anybody. Black and white. It isn't black and white. It's about laying down the boundaries and letting the chips fall where they may. Because some people, there was one guy in particular who just couldn't accept that I didn't drink. And I had to let that guy go, although I thought he was going to be one of the cool guys. He wasn't one of the cool guys. But the fact that I told him what I was doing now was different than before. He just couldn't accept it. And so, even though he was a chosen one, is one of the guys I wanted to keep, I realized that he wasn't. He was a guy who couldn't accept me, my new me, right? What I was doing now, right? And so that's the thing, is as you change, you might be one person today, but then in a couple of years, your feelings might change, your habit might change. And so you have to tell people who you are at this time. So there's different types of boundaries that you set in life, right? And everybody has a different boundary. Everybody has different boundaries for different things. And this allows you not to become a cynical, angry person. And it's difficult. And you have to take responsibility for the fact that you didn't tell people for a long time. Because when people first set a boundary, what they tend to do is be angry. It's like an explosion. It's like, every time you do this, it drives me crazy. You're always pushing me. We're always going to eat where you want to eat. Why is it always this? And you kind of explode. But actually, it's not the guy's fault. You never told him you never really subtly told him the way it was, right? I mean, if the guy does not care, that's a different thing. Some people, okay, I got to tell you, when you set down boundaries, it doesn't always go so smooth. Some people are just, they don't care. And that means that you have to make another decision, which might be uncomfortable. Is that you don't want to be around them anymore because they're not the type of person you want to be around. So that's the thing. Boundaries are not easy. And sometimes you find out things you don't want to find out. And sometimes you have to go through a process that's a painful, prickly, difficult, like learning how to skateboard process, falling off and skinning your knee. And that's a natural part, right? But that is the thing. And for me, I'll tell you a boundary for me is like when I'm doing the summit, sometimes I'm trying to think of what to talk about and I need peace. And I really need to be alone. Or maybe I don't need to be alone physically, but I need to be alone mentally. And I'll be doing the 1,000-yard stare, and I'll be totally thinking about what I'm going to talk about the next morning or something, right? Or the implications of something that somebody said. And I need people to respect that my brain is in creative mode, and just sometimes not even to talk to me, just say, okay, he's in his 1,000-yard stare mode. Let's just let him sit there for a while, right? And then once I'm done, I'm totally back, right? And so that if I don't have that, it's not even necessarily physical space. It's just like the mental space. If I don't have that, then I can't do good presentations because sometimes my brain hasn't wrapped it up yet, or something that I said before now needs to be gone into more deeper. But my brain is trying to put together, A plus B plus C equals what? Equals what? What does that mean? No, it doesn't equal D. Plus D plus E actual equals F. You know what I mean? My brain's trying to say, where does this end? Where does this go? What are the parts? How does this work? What are people not understanding? What part did I forget? What part did I miss? How did I subtly not present it the right way? My brain's like in this deep creativity mode. And so sometimes, this is me personally, I really need people just to ignore me, just to see that I'm in this, like, something's going, I'm thinking something. I don't, interrupted is a bad thing for me right now, right? And so that's kind of my boundary, which is very difficult to teach people. But once you've heard it, you'll understand. Other boundaries I don't mind. I don't really have physical boundaries that much. Like, I don't really care that much about physical boundaries. Although there's different kinds of boundaries. There's physical boundaries, there's emotional boundaries, there's intellectual boundaries. There's different ways that someone can break a boundary. that make you uncomfortable. There's verbal, like talking about things, like maybe like, for example, you might tell somebody something in one scenario, but you don't want them to talk about it in front of other people, right? You don't want them to present that idea that you said without asking you first. That could be a boundary, so it's a never-ending process maturing, basically, but understanding who you are and trying to express that, and then finding people who essentially you're shaking out things too all the time, because some people just don't care. Like literally, they don't care how you feel. They don't care what you are. They're just going to do whatever they're going to do. And then you have to make a decision about that. Is this something that you want to be around? Is this a good thing for you right now? Right? Sometimes that's fine. You love a guy like that, right? Maybe you would say, that's the kind of guy he doesn't respect this or that, but he's a great guy on Friday night, right? So it's not like black and white. Again, it's the subtleness. Like sometimes your own creativity will find a way to make things work, right? And creativity is something that is just gold. Being creative, and I don't know why I thought of this one, but I had this friend of mine, and he came to me one time, and he said to me, "Oh yeah, I know why. This is basically boundaries, right?" This Scottish guy, and he came. He was a funny guy, right? This guy was hilarious, right? He was very proud of his schlong, and he's always pulled his pants down in public. This guy was like hilarious, but he was a drinker, and he was fun to hang out with. Actually, he was very, very vivacious guy. Like he was enjoyable to be around him. But naturally, girls liked this guy because he was just a devil-may-care type guy, and so he would cruise around, and he had all these girlfriends, and he came to me asking my advice. This is like almost 30 years ago, but he came to me and he said, I'm gonna dump all my girlfriends. Like, fuck all these girls. Like, I'm tired of these girls. And I sensed that they were crouching in too close to him. They were coming in emotionally. They were suffocating him, right? And so he said, I'm dumping them all. And I said, because I already had a lot of experience. I said, look. His name was Willie, actually. That was his name. Yeah, Willie. I said, Willie, look. Why are you going to dump them? And he said, oh, fuck them. They all fucking come in too close. I don't have any peace. I don't have any free time. And I said, well, what if you did this? Okay. I said, how many girlfriends do you have? He says 7. I said, okay, look, what if you told them what if you made a rule? Okay. Like this. Cause I had already experimented. I was like the mad scientist, right? I had tried a lot of hardcore shit already. I said, look, Willie, tell them this. They can only come up to the doorstep of your house. And they have to come with no panties. And they have to get fucked right on the doorstep. And they have to leave. And they're not allowed to walk inside your apartment. Like, this is the new rule. This is the kind of girlfriend you want now. And he said, well, if I do that, they're all going to leave. And I said, well, you said they're going to leave already. You're going to get rid of them today, right? You're going to go call them all, right? You're going to get rid of them. And he said, oh, you're right. I said, okay, so essentially they're all gone now. And I said, look, when you're drawing a boundary like this, I didn't say boundary because I didn't know what I was doing at the time. But what I was doing is, it was new rules that had a boundary based on the new him, right? And now this was a temporary thing. So sometimes your boundaries are temporary, because just like the boundary with the girl who says, don't give me advice yet. I need to work this out for myself, right? I knew that Willie was going to change, but he was black and white at the moment. I knew he was going to change. I knew one of the girls was going to get him, and he was going to want to let her in the house eventually. But he had this temporary thing where he felt like they were overpowering him. So he leaves. He goes and does it. That was one thing I liked about Willie. He actually did what you said. He would actually go do it. So he told the girls, like, the new rules are, you can only come to the door and you got to wear no panties, and I'm going to screw you in the door, and then I'm going to send you home. And 4 girls are like, what the fuck? That's not fair. That's not cool. Forget you. But 3 girls agreed to it, right? So he comes to me next time, and I said, how's it going? And he had a huge smile on his face. And I said, what's going on? And he's like, 3 girls did it. They agreed. And I was like, oh, really? And he goes, yeah, it's even better than that. He goes, guess what? He goes, those 3 girls actually kind of told me, one of them told me, and then I interrogated the other ones. He said, they kind of told me that they were just coming over for sex anyway. Like, they just basically wanted me for sex anyway. So they were happy to come over and just have sex and leave. And they actually, the girls were kind of pretending like they were my girlfriend, but they just wanted a booty call. These 3 girls. They just came over for a booty call anyway. And they actually are happier now. Because it's clear now. They just come over, booty call, go home. And they didn't have to pretend like they cared about me. And he was like, I can't believe this. He's like, this is absolutely unbelievable. I have girls who come to my house with no panties and just let me screw him at the door, which is his fantasy or was kind of his fetish or whatever he likes to do, and just leave. And not only that, they were even happier than before. So he was actually holding himself back by pretending like he was their boyfriend when those 3 girls actually didn't even want a boyfriend. They just wanted a booty call, and he was a perfect booty call, and they were actually happier. So a lot of times in life, when you lay down boundaries, the people that don't like who you've become will leave. But the people that do like who you are, once you're being more honest, because here's the thing, once you're more honest, you become a kinder person in a way, because you become less fake. So Willie became more himself. So those 3 girls, like, he became a better booty call for those girls. And then when I talked to him a couple months later, guess what? 2 of them were girlfriends again. And he was totally happy having them in the house. And the girls really appreciated being in the house because they kind of earned their way into the house, right? And he said they used to do little tricks, like they would take their tippy toe and put it inside the house and say, are you going to not let me come over because I put my tippy toe in? And he's like, bad girl, you know. And then it was a playful thing, right? They were having fun, right? And so it became a very playful thing and very fun. And 2 girls earned their way back in his house. And that was fine with him because they had earned their way back in, and also he had told them who he was. And I think he kind of got it out of his system because I think the guy kind of wanted a couple girlfriends. And now he had a deeper understanding of these girls, and they had a deeper understanding of him. They had been through more things together, and there was more to share, and there was less girls that were vying for his attention, and everything worked out totally fine for this guy. So when you do this, don't do it vindictively. Okay, that's a very, very important part of boundaries, is that it's your fault. You have to understand that. It's your responsibility to tell people who you are. No one is a mind reader. Okay? We hate when girls say, they want us to read their minds. Well, that's because it's not fair. And it's the same for you. So even though guys don't tell girls for another reason, guys don't tell girls because they don't even know themselves well enough to describe what's actually going on in their brain, or they're too shy, or they're afraid because they're not quite sure yet. So you can draw a boundary without drawing a boundary. You can even say, look, I don't even know if this is my boundary yet. I'm not even sure what I feel. I'm so not used to knowing who I am that I don't even know what my fucking boundary is. But here's what I think it might be. So let's try this on for size. I'm trying to figure out what it is. Essentially. And then you're throwing the ball, like that scene I told you about with the father and the son throwing the ball back and forth. You're throwing the ball and you're seeing if they catch it, or if they let the ball drop on the ground and don't care about you and walk away and start checking their phone. Are they playing ball with you? Are they with you? Because you want people in your life who are playing ball with you. So that's the too close, too far. So if you find yourself never ever picking up the ball and being very, very cynical about everybody and hating everybody and not trusting anybody, it's probably because if you trace it back, and it takes a lot of creativity to figure out what you could have done, but it's probably because you didn't tell people who you were, and you allowed people to run over a certain boundary that you had that they had no way of knowing. They had no way of knowing. It's your responsibility to tell them. And it's your responsibility to enforce that boundary. And it's also your responsibility to do it in a way that doesn't blame them, because it's not their fault, right? It's like your own fault, right? And this stuff isn't easy, guys. This is not. I'm not saying that anybody's perfect at this. It's a lifelong process. So don't get overwhelmed with this. But if you can just do one or two things, it actually makes your life a lot better. I'm just going to say one last boundary that I came up with that I might have said before. I'm not sure. But when I was saving money, when I was an English teacher back when in my early 20s, I used to make my lunch and dinner, and I would put them into a plastic Tupperware container, and I would carry them on my backpack. I would never eat out, ever. I would always make my meal every single day, and I saved every single penny. And I saved $100,000, and my salary was very low, but I saved $100,000 cash. I did it because I did not waste one single penny. I wrote down everything that I bought. I had a little notepad in my back pocket with a pen on it, in the little round, squirrely metal thing. I had a pen in there, and I had a little thing in my back. Everything I bought for 10 cents, I would write down. And then because I wanted to save $100,000. I wanted to buy stocks, right? So this was my goal. And I didn't really care what anybody thought about it, because see, who you are changes, right? At the time, I wanted to save $100,000. I didn't care if people thought it was extreme. If people didn't like me, they can leave me. I don't care. Like, when I really want something, I'm going to go do it. Ronin Man definitely is very fucking sure of what he wants. I know what I want, and I go do it. And when I'm able to verbalize it, then I'm able to do exactly what I've been talking about. And I find friends that are okay with it. And actually, I find that a lot of people find me quite interesting because I do these things, and I'm clear about it. I'm not like a lot of people. They just always break their own rules. They try to save money. They never do. They try to get in shape. They never do. They try to travel, but they never do. They try to find a better job, but they never do. I do. They try to start a company. They never do. I do. Right. But it's because I'm able to tell people, here's what I'm doing. But I let them know, I'm not, you know what I mean? I'm not ordering them to agree. Willie did not order his girls to agree to this thing. What he did was he told them, here's what I want now. I've changed. And if you're okay with this, if this is something that you might want to, then maybe we can try this. And if not, then maybe we don't need to, it won't work out for us. And you should find another person who likes what you like, who wants to do what you want to do, So what I did was, I remember I was out with my sister, and we went to this restaurant with my nieces, who I love, and they were just the most awesome little things you've ever seen. And I said to my sister, I'm going to go outside and eat my lunchbox. And my sister said, don't do that. It's cold outside. 'Cause she knew I was doing this, right? She knew every meal I'd do this, right? And she said, look, just don't worry about it. The money, it's like, we'll cover it. I said, no, it's not about that. This is my discipline. This is what I do. She said, it's snowing outside. And I said, yeah, I don't care. I'm going to go out. I have a down jacket. I'm going to go outside. I'll eat my dinner. I'll eat my dinner. She's like, there's nowhere to sit. I'm like, yeah, I'll stand. Your hands you don't have any gloves. I said, yeah, I don't have any gloves. I said, it is only going to take 5 minutes. I said, I'm going to go outside. I'm going to eat my lunch, and I'll be back. And then it was very uncomfortable because people can't understand sometimes what I'm doing. But I went outside. I ate my lunch. I felt very good about myself out there, actually. Here I was freezing to death. My hands could barely hold the chopsticks while I'm eating this thing. And people were walking by me looking weird because we're in an expensive part of town. But this is what I was doing, right? And I was happy doing what I was doing. And I did it. I ate my lunch. I was done in 5 minutes. I put the empty container in my bag, and I went inside, and I had a coffee or something. And everybody was happy, and I was gone such a short period of time. It was the same as if you went to the bathroom anyway. So in the end, it didn't matter. And my sister realized, oh, he's serious about this. He really enjoys this. It wasn't necessarily even for money, because saving the $100,000 was partly for money, but it was partly to see if I could do it. It was partly to see if I had the discipline to do it, and if I could find fun ways that made sense for me to do it. And then the final thing I'll say why I did it is because I actually cooked very healthy meals, And my meal was actually more healthy than the expensive restaurant. And so I wanted to eat that healthy meal instead of eating some kind of rice or bread or whatever that was going to be served. Even though it was going to be top quality, this and that, it was still not what I wanted. Right? I wanted a mix of beans and seeds and nuts and all this stuff that I had, and broccoli and stuff that I had in my container. So in the end, for many reasons, I was actually happier eating my own dinner. I didn't mind eating a little supplement on top of it, but I basically wanted to get that as a base, right? I wanted that base of that healthy meal in me. And also I wanted to not let life push me around. Not that my sister was trying to push me around, but life will push you around if you don't set boundaries and if you don't know yourself. So I hope that's been helpful. And it's a good topic for guys, because guys just never get, this is like something that we don't intuitively think is going to be something good for us. And then meanwhile, we're doing all these things we don't like doing, maybe chores, maybe whatever, maybe letting girls come over too often, right? Without saying, you know what? I really like this, but I don't like this. So I don't want to do this anymore. I won't do this anymore, you know? And then if you do that, it's just amazing how your life opens up, because you start to realize that you really can create your own life. You know, you really can. And other people will adjust. And if they don't adjust, I mean, in the end, man, if someone doesn't care about you, like, what are you doing hanging out with them? I want to be around people that care about me. That's the heart of the whole thing, is you're looking for people who understand and know and care about you as friends, as lovers, as whatever, you know, as family members too. You know, you have different family members to hang out with, right? You want to be with the ones that they really groove with you and you can mature and you can grow together with. And this actually seems like a very small thing, but this might be the most important episode of all, because it's not me telling you what I think. It's you telling you what you think, and you letting other people in your life where you are right now. It's creating your own little castle in the sky, you know, your own life. And it starts from right inside you, right? Taking responsibility for how you feel about stuff and the subtle distinctions that it means. I could go into this one because they're so subtle sometimes, right? Sometimes you're like, wait, I thought that was what I wanted, but actually it's a tiny bit different, right? And here's what happens too. I just end on this. Once you do this in a mature way, in a taking responsibility way, when you realize it's your fault for not telling people, so there's no reason to be angry at anybody. They don't know. They don't have an invisible radar to read your mind, right? Once you realize that and you start to do this, what will happen is it will unlock the creativity in your partner. They will know you better. The ones that hang around with you, your friends will like you better. And also, you might look, every time you do something that is powerful, your friends gain. Anybody in your family gains because they see you. Everybody learns from everybody else. If you have children, you don't think you're teaching them. You're teaching them 24 hours a day. They watch the way that you do everything, and they learn from that's the way life is, right? You're teaching all the time other people about stuff. People are watching you. People are looking at you. So you teach people, when you learn how to do boundaries, this is something that a lot of people are not good at. And this is a lot of reason why people are angry. And so when you teach them boundaries in a kind way, right? When you actually know yourself and teach them, you give them permission to learn themselves. And that is very, very, even though what other people do doesn't matter in a way, the fact that you had an impact on other people in a very deep and meaningful and good way can be very, very rewarding for you too. So as you find yourself setting boundaries in a nice way, what you're going to find is that your friends will start to have the confidence to tell you, hey, by the way, you know, and then you say, and you think to yourself, wow, they would have never told me that before. And you're like, I'm totally happy to respect that feeling that you have about this thing. No matter how subtle it is, you know, you like this, but you don't like this, and you like that. Okay, that's how I am too. My brain is fucking human too. You know, I got this complicated fucking human brain, so I can understand your complicated human brain, and I can respect that thing. And by the way, if I do get it wrong, just let me know, because I actually care about you. I care about you as a friend, And so if I get it wrong, just let me know. You know, I'm happy to I'm happy to do it, right? And so you get a whole new kind of scenario going on that spills over into your job, into your relationships, and your friendships, and your family, the way your parents treat you. Because setting boundaries with your parents is the best, one of the most important things you can do. Because as you grow, it's very difficult, right? Oh yeah, I will do one more story. My parents are very, very squeamish about sex. Okay, sex is never talked about in my family. And nobody talked about sex. I never heard them having sex. Nobody had porn magazines. Nobody talked about sex. Sex was not a topic in my house. I'm not saying it was some kind of Victorian place. Probably my house was pretty normal, but yeah, on this front, it was, I would say, normal. But basically sex was just, you didn't see like dad, drilling mom on the fucking kitchen table, right? That wasn't happening in my house, right? And you didn't hear people doing it. You didn't talk about it. And people were uncomfortable. And like they usually are about sex. But at one point when my parents came to visit me in Tokyo, at the time I had about 7 regular girlfriends and 3 on the side. So I had 10 girls. So when my parents came for 2 weeks to stay with me, it was going to be a problem. And so what I told my parents, what happened was a girl came over. I said, "Oh, so and so is coming over," and then we talked and we laughed and everything. And my dad and my mom said, "Hey, we're going to go out to here today. Let's all go out. Let's all do this." And I said, "Yeah, that's fine, but why don't you leave us alone for like an hour and we'll go meet you? So why don't you guys go have your coffee? I know you guys want to have coffee. We'll meet you at the coffee shop." And my dad goes, he goes, "You're not saying." And then my mom hit him on the shoulder really hard. And then he was like, "Oh, okay, we'll meet you at the coffee shop." And so they went out and they met me at the coffee shop. And from then on, I was able to set this boundary that I needed to have, because in order to have a girl, like a once a week girl, you need to have sex with her. There's no getting around it. It has to be physical once a week. If you don't have sex with a girl once a week, you can't keep there are some things in life that are unbreakable, and girls need it. If you're not giving it to them, you're not having a relationship. That's why long distance things are not relationships, right? So I needed to bone these girls once a week, right? Otherwise, I was going to lose all of them, or it was going to become very confusing, and it was not going to be good, right? It was going to be chaos around my house. So I needed to do this. This was part of my life. It's like I do my yoga, right? We had to have sex once a week. That was going to happen with each girl, and it had to be pretty good too. So I had to have energy. I had to sleep. I had to care about them. I had to do this thing once. Well, I had a few. It was really difficult at that time because it was more than once a day. So it was confusing. I don't recommend having more than 7 girlfriends, because more than once a day is too much. It just gets too fucking chaotic. Once a day is fine. 6 is the best, or 5, because that way you have a couple of days off. You get some peace of mind. But either way, so let's go back to that. So that's a sexual boundary, or that's a privacy boundary. And I felt, I can't, when I laid down that law with my parents, I tell you, that was it sounds strange, but it was one of the more meaningful things about it, because none of my family is like me. None of my family is not monogamous, and I can be monogamous. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I can't be. I definitely can be, but I don't choose to be. Not right now, right? And so it was not easy for me. I felt a lot of conflicting emotions, like I was a bad guy and you're not supposed to do this. But actually, it's not about that. You are who you are, okay? You are good. Men are good. You are awesome. We are all incredibly complex, amazing creatures, and so finding yourself and being yourself is okay. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that, man. Find out who you are, but just don't forget to fucking tell people, right? You know what I mean? Don't expect them to read your mind, and don't, surprise them, like jump out of the fucking closet. Like this one guy I knew, he fucking, all of a sudden, I stayed at his house. He was fucking trying to climb on top of me. He was gay. Like I was like, hey, no thanks, Like I didn't like it, because I have a lot of gay friends, but I don't want him to surprise me with it, right? I'm not gay myself, so I don't that was not appreciated, right? Because accept everything, but I also am not, so it's like, hey, look, I got my boundaries here. I know who I am. I don't have there's no complications on this one for me. I am very open-minded guy. If I was gay, I would be fucking openly gay. Like, there's no question about it. If I like trannies, I would be talking about trans. You know what I mean? Like, you guys know who I am. I tell you guys who I am, and I tell my friends who I am. So that's one thing about me, that I don't jump out of the closet like, hey, surprise, I'm like this. Now, I might change. Okay, I can have, this is the key with boundaries, is they constantly change, and you constantly do mature as a man, and you will change. And that's up to you to kind of figure who you are out, and then to decide to tell people, okay, here's the new thing. I used to love doing this. Like I used to watch a movie every day when I was in my 30s, 20s and 30s. No, 20s and then mid 30s. But then one day I just suddenly didn't want to watch movies anymore. And so, I had some friends that we would just watch. That's all we did. We'd get together, watch a movie, and talk about it. It was kind of like a movie review channel, or something, That was kind of what we did. But once I stopped watching movies, those guys drifted away. One of them stayed because we found new things to do together, But, so these things change. And also, like, I don't like watching movies, but I actually have a secret. I do have a secret that I haven't told you guys. I'm going to come out of the closet on this. I love musicals. I fucking love musicals, man. I taught musicals when I was in my early 20s. I was a college professor, and I really like musicals. I don't know why. Something about musicals. They're just awesome to me. They're a way of communicating ideas and thoughts, and I would love, to write a musical. I think that it's a great way to communicate a lot of deep human emotions and scenarios. So musicals are something that I could watch with this guy. And that's what happened. We ended up watching a few musicals together. And now I run out because I'm not going to watch musicals all the time. But I'm saying I do really enjoy musicals. I really, like, there's something in the emotion in them and the way that they convey ideas. Fiddler on the Roof, these things are just fucking awesome, A Streetcar Named Desire, that by the way, you can rent that one. It's a movie, but it's like a musical. It's a play. Sorry, it's a play. Yeah, plays are another thing. Plays and musicals, both of them. I really like them. Whereas like exploding things on camera, those things don't really get me. But the simple human, I guess what it is. You know what it is, guys? I just figured it out. I grew up in a trailer park. We didn't have any toys. We didn't have crap. I had to make everything out of mud and dirt and rocks and things that I found in the garbage. And I don't want to exaggerate it, but yeah, that's kind of what I did. I'd go to the construction sites, get little pieces of wood. I'd come back and make a fucking car, right? I'd find little wheels. I would take things off one thing and put it on another. And we'd go to the park. Me and my brother, my sister, and everybody in the neighborhood, we would have to invent dramas, kind of. Like we had to create things because we didn't have anything. We didn't have any electric gadgets. We didn't even have regular toys, like wooden toys, that much, And so we created. I found out later that my mom had lived, she had no toys, and she just sat in the forest, and everything was a fantasy, and she created all of her own stories in her mind. So I think my mom was key in pushing me, in allowing me to understand that all of the enjoyment and creativity is inside my own mind. It's just about unlocking my own mind. And so I really do not need much in my life. I can live a very simple life, but it's not simple for me. It's not austere. My life is not austere. My life is like a fucking palace with gold and diamonds dripping from the fucking ceiling. That's and silk blowing in the wind on the top of the hill with the golden walls. That's my life. And it doesn't matter what is outside. It's because I really get it from inside myself. And so musicals and plays, they are like that for me. Because it's a way that I see them with nothing, creating everything. And that's what I do myself too. I can create this channel without even my face, right? I'm doing the same thing right now, And this is kind of like this is one thing I really enjoy doing. And I really enjoy watching other people do, it's a beautiful thing, for me, so that's why I like plays and musicals. It's not because of some fucking thespian teacher or something. It's because of the ability for a human to do what they do, right? Whatever you call that, it's creating something from nothing, but it is creating a very, very amazing something. And maybe that is in some ways all there is sometimes, I could be totally happy in a jail cell. Like, I know that. I could create my own, I could learn, I could grow, I could do everything all on my own. I mean, I love people. You guys know that. That's why I do the summits. I love meeting you. I love hanging out. I love making new friends. But at the same time, I don't need it. I really don't need it. I can totally be alone. Like, I could be at this cabin by myself for a year. Totally fine. I wouldn't be like the Unabomber. I'm totally happy. In fact, I would be busy. That may sound funny. I'd be totally busy, and like people would be like, "Are you?" I'd be like, "Oh yeah." Well, I guess in some ways I am, but in many ways, I guess I am. Yeah, I'd like to meet people. You know what I mean? Like that, the kind of the mode. You'd have to kind of wake me up. Like, oh, yeah, I would like to add that spice to the soup. You know what I mean? Of other people, but basically, I had something going on. So that's kind of my mind, right? So there you go. There. I hope that was interesting. And if you have anything that your boundaries, if you want more of this, I think a boundary series. It's such a deep topic. It's really great for men. Boundaries for men is a really great topic, because guys are taught that we have no boundaries. That basically girls they have boundaries. Like girls will say, "Okay, I said no. He's not respecting no." Guys think boundaries are girls telling them no. That's not what a boundary is. And often that boundary is fucked, because the girl totally misled you, was completely dishonest about everything. And then all of a sudden she has a boundary. Now that's fine. She still has a boundary. I'm not saying you shouldn't respect it, but I'm saying that it's very retarded. Okay. It's just like you can be retarded too. That's why you don't want to be retarded. You want to say, who am I? You want to know yourself so you can tell people so that they know. So you don't have to jump out of the closet and say, oh, by the way, I hate doing this. By the way, I don't like you. You know what I mean? Like, as a friend. Like, why the fuck are you hanging out with me? What the fuck is wrong with you? Like, you know what I mean? Like, tell me who you are. Let me know. And practice this incredibly difficult but very, very beneficial and very maturing thing. And if you do this, you won't have to go down the road of the cynical, old, angry man. You will avoid that. That is the key benefit in this for you. One, you'll have a better life. 2, you'll have better friends. 3, you'll be more at peace. 4, you'll find out more about yourself. But I think in the end, you will not be a bitter old man. You will be a mature man who accepts himself and knows himself. And that's what we all want in the end, I think. At least I want that. Anyway, guys, take it easy, man. And see you guys soon. We're coming over to the summit. It's 2019. It's September 6, 7, 8. So if you're listening to this in 2020 or whatever, there's no summit. But this year there's a summit, 2019, September 6, 7, 8 in Tokyo, Japan. If you want to go, send me an email, roninmigtao@gmail.com. Definitely not too late to come. Definitely not. Tokyo's good infrastructure, easy to visit. The key thing is, can you get a ticket? That's the thing. Can you get a reasonable ticket? Everything else can be worked out. But if you can get a ticket that you're comfortable with, why not jump on a plane, meet a few guys, Can't lose on that. I think it's a winner all around. Anyway, guys, take it easy. I'm going to go walk around the lake, jump in the lake. Have a good one.